Hikaru is an ordinary high school student with severe social anxiety and no idea what he wants to do with his life. One morning, he woke up early, got out of bed, and headed to the station to catch the first train to school. Last night, while riding his bike, he saw a mysterious orange light in the sky and heard a voice calling to him. As he scrolled by, he noticed a pregnant woman standing in front of him and two elderly women silently criticizing him for not giving up his seat to her. He felt like it was the right thing to do, so he got up from his seat and tried to give up his seat to the pregnant woman. But then, he heard two men behind him teasing him for being a softie. He is relieved when he realizes that they are not talking about him, but about him while he is standing there. The man next to him had already stood up and offered his seat to the pregnant woman. Embarrassed and about to get off the train, a classmate suddenly got on and spotted Hikaru. Hikaru's friends started talking about their plans for the future, but Hikaru was so preoccupied with last night that he actually hadn't been listening the whole time. The friends asked Hikaru about it, and Hikaru explained what he remembered. He heard voices late last night, but when he opened the window to see what was going on, he saw that the area around Kagami Building was very bright, so he cycled up the hill to get a better look. But what he didn't know at the time was that there was a big fight going on in Kagamaville, and the orange cube was about to be stolen by a girl with a robotic arm on her waist. She tried to escape from the rooftop, but as soon as she got to the roof, she was immediately surrounded by the building's private police, who, seeing that she was a Mecha-Ude user, immediately took out their weapons and tried to neutralize her. But because of her mechanical arm, they could not hit her easily. After the police officers failed to stop her, the guards took out their special weapons and used them to freeze her in place. The boss then appeared and took out his own mechanical creature, which was being experimented on to make it a more efficient tool. The girl's mechanical arm resents what the man has done to one of their own, but the man shows no remorse and takes the cube back to use in future experiments. The girl does not allow this to happen, and with the help of the arms, sinus, and dex, she escapes from the trap and attacks the weapons developer. In the course of the battle, the girl succeeds in taking the cube from the weapons developer, but the containment tube is damaged and the cube is launched several hundred meters into the air. At that time, Hikaru witnesses an explosion from the building and even takes a video of it. However, for some reason, no anomalies were recorded. He also remembers witnessing a glowing tube land near the building. His friends thought he must have had a really strange dream last night, but apparently he heard voices. So out of curiosity, they asked what kind of voices he heard last night, to which Hikaru shyly replied that the voices were calling for help. His friends joked that it might be a ghost, but Ikura knew what he heard and, coincidentally, heard the same voice again. So he started running after it, even though he was supposed to be in class. He eventually approached Kagami's building. He did not know what he was looking for, but as he was about to enter the roped-off area, a police officer stopped him and told him he was not allowed to return here. When Hikaru asks why, the officer explains that Kagami made a large donation to the police station in exchange for a few officers helping him out with a small situation. At that moment, however, he receives a radio message that Kagami needs to send all the officers to the back room, and the officers try to head to the back, leaving the strange child near the restricted area. Hikaru, being a law-abiding citizen, initially tried to turn back, but as he was leaving the area, he heard the voice again. So he decided to ignore the no-crossing tape and search for things in the abandoned section of the property. After walking around for a while, he came across an eerily glowing tube in the middle of the floor. As he approached the cube did indeed begin to talk. The cube soared into the sky and landed on Hikaru's back. By the time Hikaru opened his eyes, a giant arm had sprouted from his back, and the arm was relieved that he was finally saved. Hikaru hears someone talking to him, but he can't see anyone, so he panics until the arm draws his attention and calms him down. Seeing a metal arm growing out of his back does nothing to calm Hikaru, but the arm begins to thank him as he is truly grateful to be free of the cube. The arm tries to tell Hikaru his name, but realizes that he doesn't actually remember his own name. Hikaru is still not convinced that the arm is on his back, but he realizes that the arm is not actually on his back, but just attached to his jacket. Before he can think about what to do next, a drone shows up to investigate the area, which leads Hikaru to believe that the robotic arm must belong to the Kagami group, and not wanting to get into trouble, he starts to take off his jacket to return it, but the drone activates the buzzsaw and tries to kill him. Hikaru runs for his life and thinks the drone is after him because of his mechanical arm. When he falls, he tries to return the arm so he won't be attacked anymore, but it turns out that the drone is specifically trying to kill him, and the arm has to intervene to protect him. The mortally wounded Hikaru has no idea what the drone, not arm, is after, but arm tells him that there is no time to relax, as more drones are on their way. Meanwhile, at Kagami's headquarters, the president is informed that the drone has found the missing trigger arm. One of the upper management asks if the boy is related to Arms, but a background check reveals that he is really just a kid they found by chance. He does not care what happens to the kid. At that time, Hikaru and Arm had eluded the drone's detection. Hikaru was thankful to be safe, but demanded an explanation as to what the arm was and why he was being chased because of the arm. Unfortunately, the arm cannot answer Hikaru's question because it does not remember anything, but what the arm does know is that Hikaru is a kind man who helped him. Normally, the arm would not be able to move at all without the Arbitrium. But with Hikaru, the joints are as smooth as butter. Hikaru congratulates him on his arm's freedom, but decides to leave his arm with his jacket so that he is no longer involved. The arm should be fine, since it can move on its own, but the arm begs him not to go and tries to warn him that it is dangerous out there. Since the arm is putting us in danger, the best way to ensure our personal safety is to keep our distance from the arm. However, he noticed that the further away the arm went, the less sound it made, and when he turned around, the arm had almost completely lost its power. After a little testing, he confirmed that the arm loses power every time it goes really far, meaning that for better or worse, it cannot get out of the arm. Eventually, the drone catches up to them, but this time the arm says it will take care of itself, grabs the floor, and starts dragging Haruka around and away from the drone. While the arm does so, the weapons developer is watching from a nearby water tower and is quite disappointed that the trigger arm turns out to be so pathetic. More importantly, he is informed that he is not the only one who is after the trigger arm. Meanwhile, Aki has just arrived in the area, but her informant tells her she is going in the wrong direction. He tells her to go south, but she does not know which way is south. She needs to go to the other side of the building, but it would take too long to go back, so she finds a small alley and intends to go through there instead. On the other side of the wall, Hikaru was running out of strength from being chased for so long. Running with his arms was certainly faster, but it had drained Hikaru's strength considerably, and he could not continue much longer. Suddenly, he was grabbed by Aki and thrown to the floor while she dealt with the drone. She then turns to them, calls her arm Alma, and threatens to kill them both if they move. But before Dex can properly explain to Hikaru, the weapons developer shows up. He still holds a grudge against Aki for taking Alma from her and intends to make her pay, and as the two are distracted by their argument, Hikaru notices an alley behind them and sends her running. Aki notices him fleeing in a shimmy, but she is too wide to pursue him in her Mecha-Ude, so she ends up taking on the weapons developer on this side of the wall. On the other side, Hikaru escapes and starts running again. He's beginning to regret coming here. RM sees Hikaru's distress and tells him to stop, leaving him behind. The people chasing him are only after Alma, so if Hikaru leaves Alma behind, he should be able to escape unharmed. Even if Alma is right, Hikaru hesitates to abandon him because he knows that Alma cannot move without him. Aki defeats the weapons developer and catches up with the two. Alma tells him to wait and says she will listen to his demands if he will release Hikaru, but Hikaru says he is not going anywhere. He chooses to stay by Alma's side, though he may regret it. He seems to resist, so Aki prepares to beat him into submission. Hikaru is not sure he can win, but Alma assures him that the two of them can defeat Aki. Just step forward and let him do the rest. Not knowing what will happen, he trusts Alma and rushes toward Aki, but as Alma transforms in midair, the wind blows out of her lungs and she gasps on the ground. Hikaru and Alma took the opportunity to flee, and after a few hours, when it was safe to do so, they came out of hiding and escaped. Meanwhile, Aki returns to the base and reports that they failed to capture Alma. However, even if he escapes now, there is no doubt that the group on the kick will soon come after Alma. The next day, Hikaru decides to take Alma to school with him as he has nowhere to leave her. However, when he arrives at class, he learns that Aki is transferred to a new school. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next.